My husband slept with his boss to get promoted. Yeah, that sentence still doesn't feel real when I say it out loud. The part that really twists the knife, his boss is a man, and my husband had sworn he was straight for over 20 years. My name is Mara. I found out about Elias's affair the same way most people do in 2026, through a phone he forgot to lock. It was a Tuesday. I remember that detail clearly because Tuesdays were supposed to be ours, our date night, the one sacred evening we protected after 20 years together, 16 of them married. But Elias canceled again, third week in a row, said work was insane, said the promotion was so close he could practically taste it, said his boss, Victor, needed him late for a critical presentation. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Elias had never given me a reason not to. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't. I was just moving it to plug in my own phone when the screen lit up. A message preview. Victor, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Incredible. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like my body forgot how gravity worked. I stared at the screen. 10 seconds maybe, though it felt like an hour. My brain scrambling for logic. Maybe it was about work. Maybe Victor was just weirdly enthusiastic about presentations. Sure. Then another message appeared. My place tonight. I'll make it worth your while. Wear that cologne I like. I slid down onto the kitchen floor, still clutching the phone. The shower was still running. Elias was singing. Singing like a man with no secrets, like he hadn't just detonated our life. My hands shook when I unlocked his phone. His password was our anniversary. The irony almost made me laugh. Almost. I opened the message thread. Months of messages. Photos, videos, hotel names, office locations, Victor's apartment. My husband and his boss tangled together in ways that made it painfully clear this wasn't just about ambition. If the promotion mattered at all, it was just a bonus. You're better than her, Victor had written weeks earlier. When are you leaving? Soon, Elias replied, I promise. I was still on the floor when Elias walked out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, that easy smile on his face. Hey babe, have you seen my... He stopped when he saw the phone. The smile vanished. Mara, don't. My voice surprised me with how calm it sounded. Don't. He reached for the phone, but it didn't matter. I'd already seen everything. How long? I asked. Silence. Water dripped from his hair onto the hardwood floor we'd chosen together years ago. How long, Elias? 6 months. That's half a year of lies, while I planned anniversaries, while I covered for him with my mother, while I defended him to my sister when she said he felt distant. Is he the first? His face answered before his mouth could. How many? I asked. I don't know, he whispered. I never counted. Like they were nothing. 20 years, I said. Were you ever straight, or was I just convenient? It's not like that. Then explain it. He collapsed onto the couch. I love you, he said. I laughed too, sharp and broken. You love me, that's rich. He insisted it was separate, that it meant nothing, that he never planned to leave me. Somehow that hurt more. So I was the placeholder? He reached for me. I stepped back. Don't touch me. He begged for therapy, promised to quit, promised everything. I grabbed my purse. I'm leaving. I drove in silence, blinkers clicking like a countdown. I went straight to my best friend Rowan's apartment. She took one look at me and pulled me inside. What happened? I told her everything. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said, dead serious, I will kill him. I actually smiled. Thanks. I stayed the night, turned my phone off. When I turned it back on, there were 50 missed calls. I called a lawyer instead. Her name was Denise Carter. Expensive, ruthless, perfect. Prenup? She asked. No. Good. 15-year marriage meant half of everything. Infidelity meant leverage. I don't want his money, I said. Take it anyway, she replied. You'll need it. Elias showed up that night, soaked in rain, looking small. I filed, I told him. You'll be served. He said he got the promotion. I congratulated him and hoped it was worth it. The divorce was fast, brutal, clean. I kept the house, then couldn't stand it and sold it. My mother blamed me. My father didn't. That mattered. 2 weeks after the papers were final, an unknown number called. "My name is Lila," the woman said. "We need to talk about Elias." We met. She dated him, thought he was single. She slid a folder toward me. Evidence, apps, names, lies stacked on lies. "Why show me?" I asked. "Because you deserve the truth." Then she smiled. "I think he deserves consequences." She suggested exposing everything: work, family, friends. I thought about 20 stolen years. Do it. We spent weeks compiling proof. When we sent it, the fallout was instant. Elias was fired, so was Victor. The internet devoured the story. Strangers validated what I'd lived, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty, tired. Rowan brought wine. "How does it feel?" "Ask me tomorrow." By then, the world had moved on, but Elias's life hadn't. He lost everything, tried to rebrand, started a podcast. It flopped. Months later, he called begging for help. "No," I told him. "You don't get to destroy me and ask for rescue." I hung up. That was the day things shifted. Therapy helped. So did school. I finished my design degree, built a life untouched by his lies. Years later, he married again, lied again. I stayed out of it. Then his new wife found me, thanked me. "You saved me years." I met her for coffee, told her the truth, helped her leave. That night, lying next to my new partner, quiet, honest, steady, I realized something important. If you're still listening to this story right now, if it resonated, if it made you feel seen, please like, subscribe, and comment. It genuinely helps a small creator like me keep telling stories that matter. 5 years after my life exploded, I remarried, not because I needed to be saved, but because I finally knew my worth. And Elias? He became nothing more than a chapter. Painful, yes, but finished. The rest of my story finally belonged to me. After the exposure settled and the noise faded, life didn't magically become easy. It became quieter. And in that quiet, I finally started to hear myself think. Elias tried calling again weeks later. I had already unblocked his number, not because I wanted him back, but because I no longer felt the need to barricade my peace. When I answered, his voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "I'm drowning," he said. "Debt collectors, bankruptcy. I don't know what to do." I let the silence stretch. "You're calling me for help?" He said I was the only one who would still listen. That hurt more than I expected, not because I felt responsible, but because it confirmed how thoroughly he'd burned every bridge around him. "Have you considered," I said evenly, "that this might be the consequence?" He whispered that we'd been together 20 years. That had to count for something. "It counted for everything to me," I replied, "but apparently it counted for nothing to you." I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to him. Rowan texted minutes later, "Proud of you." I smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't forced. I started seeing Dr. Alvarez, a therapist who specialized in betrayal trauma. She helped me untangle the knots Elias had left in my sense of self. "Some people," she said gently, "are broken in ways love cannot fix." That sentence stayed with me. I went back to school, finished the design degree I'd put on hold because Elias's career always came first. Turns out I was good, really good. I landed a job at a small firm, new friends, new routines, a life that felt earned instead of endured. A year later, I ran into Victor, the boss, at a cafe. He looked wrecked. apologized, asked why I thought Elias did it. Because he uses people, I said simply, and eventually there's no one left. Victor nodded like that truth had finally landed. I walked away lighter than I expected. 2 years post-divorce, Leela called me. He remarried, she said. I felt the old nausea rise, but it didn't take over. The new wife's name was Kendra. She didn't know. Elias had changed his last name, claimed he'd never been married. Of course he did. Leela asked what I wanted to do. I surprised myself. Nothing. That chapter was closed. Or so I thought. Months later, an email arrived. Kendra. She'd found the old viral post, discovered everything. He told me you were dead. I stared at the screen, stunned by the audacity. She was leaving him, thanked me for telling the truth years earlier, said it saved her from wasting her life. We met for coffee. She looked exhausted, but determined. How did you survive this? She asked. I told her the truth. Therapy, time, anger, rebuilding, one day at a time. Did you ever regret leaving? Not once. I gave her my lawyer's number. Watched her shoulders straighten as she left. That night, my partner Julian, quiet, steady, real, held me while I talked it through. His loss, he said, and for the first time, I believed it completely. 4 years after the divorce, a letter arrived. Elias's handwriting. I almost didn't open it. He apologized, said he was in therapy, diagnosed, alone. I don't expect forgiveness. I showed it to Dr. Alvarez. How do you feel? She asked. I thought about it. Detached, I said. She smiled. That's healing. I never replied. I threw the letter away. 5 years later, Julian and I married. Small, honest, real. Rowan stood beside me. Leela and her partner danced. My parents cried. Julian promised honesty, especially when it was hard. When it was my turn, I promised never to abandon myself again. Never. That night, lying beside him, I realized forgiveness wasn't the goal. Freedom was. Elias became what he always should have been, a lesson, not a life. And the rest of my story? Still unfolding, still mine. And this time, the plot finally made sense. Marriage the second time around felt different from the start. Not louder, not flashier, just steadier. Julian never rushed me, never pushed when I hesitated, never treated my scars like inconveniences. We built our life slowly, on purpose. Morning coffee rituals, long walks without talking, arguments that ended in understanding instead of emotional landmines. Sometimes late at night, I'd catch myself waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the lie, the betrayal, but it never came. Therapy taught me that healing isn't the absence of fear, it's learning not to let fear drive the car. Dr. Alvarez said that once, and I wrote it on a sticky note above my desk. I watched Leela thrive too. She moved cities, changed jobs, fell in love with a woman who treated her like sunlight instead of shelter. We joked sometimes about our strange bond, how one man's lies accidentally stitched together a small network of survivors. Trauma networking, she called it. Life had a strange sense of humor. Years passed quietly. No scandals, no chaos, just growth. Then, one afternoon, while sorting mail, I noticed a familiar name on an envelope, Elias. My chest tightened, not panic, just awareness. I opened it carefully. Inside was a legal notice. He'd finalized his bankruptcy, lost everything again. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just distance. That was when I understood I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. Indifference. Indifference didn't come all at once. It arrived gradually, like winter melting into spring without anyone announcing it. One day, I realized I hadn't thought about Elias in weeks, then months, then a full year passed, and his name only surfaced when someone else mentioned it. That realization startled me more than any confrontation ever had. He no longer lived in my head. Julian noticed the shift before I did. "You seem lighter," he said one evening as we washed dishes together. I smiled. I think I finally stopped carrying something I wasn't meant to. We hosted dinner parties, traveled, argued about paint colors, built a life so ordinary it felt miraculous. On our anniversary, Julian gave me a simple necklace. No diamonds, just a smooth stone engraved with one word: enough. Enough. I cried harder than I expected, because for so long I had believed I wasn't. Somewhere out there, Elias was still chasing versions of himself he didn't understand, still trying to outrun the truth. But that story wasn't mine anymore. Mine had evolved. Mine had roots. Looking back now, I don't frame my past as wasted time. I loved honestly, fully, without calculation. That was never a flaw. That was my strength. Elias didn't take that from me. He revealed it. And I refused to let his deception define the rest of my life. People sometimes ask if I forgave him. I tell them forgiveness wasn't the milestone. Freedom was. Peace was. Choosing myself, again and again, was. The truth is, some people are lessons, not partners. Some chapters hurt, but they sharpen you. And some endings aren't failures. They're exits, necessary ones. As I write this now, Julian is in the other room humming off-key while making dinner. The windows are open. The air smells like rain. I am safe. I am loved. I am no longer surviving. I am living. And if you're listening to this story while standing in your own wreckage, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again, hear me when I say this. You will. One day, the pain will loosen its grip. One day, your story will belong to you again. And when it does, you'll realize something incredible. The ending you feared was actually the beginning.